And joining us right now on the Rothman Orthopedics guest line, your favorite hockey podcast out there and web show, Nasty Knuckles. We got Riley Cote. We got Derek Settlemeyer here with us. Ladies and gentlemen, let's talk some pucks. Alain Vigneault gets axed by the Flyers, the latest casualty of the Flyers head coaching job, I guess. Fellas, Nasty, I'll start with you. Reaction to Alain Vigneault getting the axe?
Well, I hate to see anyone lose their job. Obviously, I know what it's all about. It sucks, but I mean, this has just been a mess, and I think it had to be done. Unfortunately, I was almost shocked that it took this long, and I hate saying that because I like AV,
right?
But it's just when things are just, I mean, it just keeps getting worse, game after game. We talked about this earlier today on our show OT. You see the frustration, you feel so bad for guys, but I mean, something had to give here. And unfortunately, in the business, that's what happens. And the coach is usually the first to go. And, Chuck had to pull the trigger there.
Riley, how about you, man? What was your reaction to the news?
Yeah, much like Nasty. I mean, I saw this coming a mile away. I thought it would have been done maybe last week. But 8 games, 0-8. You got to do something. I think firing the coach is the first and easiest thing you can do to shake things up. Just the nature of the business, right? You lose games, someone's got to go. It's usually the coach. It's the way it is. To me, it wasn't shocking at all. It was inevitable the way things were going, and we'll see how it changes the play of the guys.
One of the things that I did find interesting was a little bit more than a week ago, Chuck Fletcher addressed the media and was talking about injuries this, injuries that. We'll see how we do when we get guys back. And I guess when it got to 8 straight losses, that was a little too much to wait for. I mean, did you guys get that same kind of vibe?
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I understand where he's coming from and saying that, but you're still about 4 weeks away from Ellis, probably, who's a huge part of this team. Then, unfortunately, a day after he says that, Farabee goes into the boards, losing an edge, goes into the boards. He's out 2 to 4. We don't know how long. Brassard, I think, had a backward step here, is what I heard. You can't wait around. They're not the only team that has injuries as well. I mean, we talked about that. Also, Pittsburgh hasn't had Malkin in their lineup yet. Sid just came back. There were some other teams we were talking about that Backstrom and Washington hasn't even played a game. Oshie's out. I mean, those are big names. Flyers have some big name players. Hazy's missed most of the season. He's back, says he's feeling better. But yeah, man, it sucks. But you can't sit around and wait till January to see what you're at. The way it's going now, Christ, if you lose a couple, 3 more in a row, you're really in a bad spot.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I mean, he had to do something. I mean, I think it was two losses since his last little, State of the Union type of deal. But you got to stop the bleeding. These aren't just exactly like small losses. They're getting absolutely destroyed. I mean, especially last night for sure. But you got to do something. I mean, I know in the moment when he said that, he was trying to be patient, thinking that maybe they squeezed out 1 or 2 wins, and then all this negativity maybe goes away temporarily, but. 8 straight losses. You got boo-birds. I mean, there wasn't a fan in the stands yesterday in the third period that, stayed for the third period, but the ones that did stay, they're booing. I mean, it was just like one of those things. You have to make a move. Ignacy's saying you go 3-4 more games and they drop 2-3 more. Then you're just digging yourself in a bigger hole. So you have to make a move.
Mike Yeo takes over as the interim head coach. What do you guys know about him? What do you think he's going to bring to the table? What's one of the first things you think he needs to do as the Flyers' new, albeit interim, head coach?
Well, I know Yosi a bit, and a great guy. I know the players really like him. Riles can attest this. When you're an assistant coach, you kind of have a different role, though. You're kind of a buffer. Now he's the head coach, but I know when he was in St. Louis, I know a few of the guys on the team, and they really liked him. And he was an easy guy to deal with. He was fair to the players. But if you watched his press conference today, he wants the team to play hard, like not fighting every fight. But he's like, I want a hard-hitting team. I want these guys that, that's the way to correct things. I like where he's going with that, but you got to have everybody on board. He wants these guys to play hard first and foremost, and then kind of work on things. He has a few hours to get ready for his first game, behind the bench. So, I think you're going to see him play very, very hard for Yossi. You know, they got to turn it around.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And Riley, you've been a player, you've been a coach. What does this team need to do?
Well, you know, I think expectations of coaches are very similar. I mean, what coach doesn't want hard work and, you know, and to play a more physical brand of hockey and all that good stuff. So I don't know necessarily what he's going to do differently. You know, he's been in the locker room the last 3 seasons. He knows what he's got as far as talent goes. But, I mean, if you can get these guys to just dig in a little deeper, you know, I think to me, like, yes, they're losing games, but they're not even losing close games. So if you can at least get closer to a win based on just work, you know what I mean? Like Nasty's saying, it's like, yeah, yes, we got to dig in a little harder. We got to work a little harder. I'm not sure if it's a system issue or if guys were just disconnected to the message or the philosophy of AV or whatever it lands up being. But anytime you get a new coach in the mix, a new voice, generally, at least at the start, guys respond and play a little harder because it's like if this don't work, then it's on every single guy in that locker room, which it should be already. But you know, I expect the guys to, at least for the first few games, to show some sort of life, and then after that, you know, I'm not sure where it goes. I'm not sure if the play is to keep Yeo there, or they're looking at bringing in someone else. But you know, whatever it is, I know the conversation in the locker room right now isn't about who's behind the bench. It's about like the guys in the locker room and pulling together and finding ways to win games. You know, that's the bottom line. But the philosophy, I don't see it changing a whole lot. But maybe it's just a little more emphasis on getting on the defenseman a little quicker, generating a little more turnovers, maybe more greasy plays than that. Whatever that lands up being, just being a greasier hockey team because they're not going to outskill anybody right now.
Mm-hmm. When a coach does get fired, they move on to a new coaching staff and all that stuff. What happens in the locker room? Some people talk about a message. It falls on deaf ears, his voice. They need a new voice in the dressing room, whatever it might be. What happens when that actually does take place? Are there cases where they definitely need that new voice in there? Is this one of those cases, you think?
I think by watching last year and then after the first, 10 games of this year, I think it's pretty apparent that was the problem or it was affecting their play. I don't know. You hate to make excuses, but nothing seemed to be working. So, again, you hate to see someone lose their job, but I mean, just was not going well. They weren't overtime losses. They weren't 3-2 losses. We're talking 7-1 at home.
Jeez.
6-2, 5-1 on the road. Like, I mean, things weren't clicking. You could see the frustration on the players and the coaches and everyone. It's not fun when you go through this. A few years ago, we went through a 10-game stretch where we didn't win a game. But in saying that, they weren't 7-1 losses. They were like, you're still banging your head because you're losing that many games, but they were a lot closer and it seemed to be more effort. I'm not saying their guys aren't giving effort, but it almost looks like they're not, but they are. We know they are. Mm-hmm. So I think maybe this time it was probably the right thing to do, obviously.
Yeah. Yeah, I think once the players start disconnecting from the coach's message for whatever reason, whether it's the message itself or the person themselves, I think that's the biggest thing. What I've learned in coaching is you got to nurture the relationships of your players, right? Mm-hmm. I say especially the elite guys, like the higher end guys, because you lose one or two of those guys, everyone else kind of follows these guys. So I mean, preserving your relationships is key. That to me is more important than the system itself. There's going to be mistakes. I think everyone understands the systems themselves and the philosophy of what they're trying to accomplish. But you know, when the players deal with adversity and teams deal with adversity, you know, the people's true colors come out, and then it's like, how are we going to deal with this? You know, and I think some coaches, and I don't know AV really. I mean, I've met him a couple times, so I don't know how he is with players, but eventually the message can get stale. And not even so much the message of the system, like I'm saying, but like the way the coach is communicating. Is the coach being accountable, or is he pointing fingers? You know what I mean? I don't know exactly how it's going in the locker room, but you know, to me, this type of thing needs to happen. Coaches generally have especially in pro sports, most hockey specifically, a pretty short shelf life, and you know, the way the coach communicates can land up wearing on guys, and then eventually it's like if it wears on guys and guys tune out, then it's kind of what we see right now. I would think that this is a team not playing for their coach. I was at the game yesterday. It was when they generated some scoring chances, especially early, got some shots on net, but I mean, no spirit, no jam, no fight, and to me, that's just like, what are you playing for now?
Right.
And it should be pride, but they're disconnected from the message. So hopefully Yeo can reignite some energy and some spirit back in him.
On that note, and I know you could always say, that guy doesn't need my advice or anything like that, but, Nasty, if he calls you, you said you know him a little bit, obviously. Riley, same thing. Like, you look at a guy like Mike Yeo and you say, if you were to give him one piece of advice, if you were to say, hey, maybe give this a shot, what's the first thing you'd like to see from a stylistic approach or strategy approach with this hockey team? Maybe even a change of lines. I don't know. What's something that you would like to see in the not too distant future him try to initiate with this interim tag?
Well, gosh, I mean, the way it's been, the guy to try to relax the guys a little bit. Like, I mean, I know that's easy to say, but it's almost like we talked about this earlier. Like, they're squeezing their sticks, like just try to make, hey, let's have some fun here. I know we're losing. Like, that's my biggest thing. Like, I've never been a coach. I've never been a GM, just a pigeon equipment guy, but I've been around a lot of good coaches and things like this. And I think, Riley, I don't know if you agree with this or not, but you played. Like, you got to just stop thinking so much and go out and play and have fun, play together, play hard. I know it's cliche, but that's my biggest thing. And I think Yosie's that kind of guy that's what he's going to do. I mean, I'm not going to be in there to tell you what he does, but that's just what I think of.
Right? Yeah. And I think it goes back to what we said earlier. And I know it sounds very, very simple, but it's just getting the guys to dig in a little harder, like get on the forecheck a little harder, pressure the defenseman a little faster. And I think like if you start playing with a little more jam and spirit, you'll create more turnovers, have possession a little bit more. Simple stuff, like just getting the puck to the net. Like yesterday, how many times did the Flyers missed the net? Just like on some good opportunities, you missed the net. Just get it on the net, generate a secondary opportunity. There's nothing overly complicated about the hockey game. It's just like, to Nasty's point too, is like when everyone's trying really hard, probably too hard in the sense of like you now sacrificing actual smart work versus the physical work. And, there's a couple goals yesterday. It's like, do your job, like you do someone else's job where you leave a man open and then all of a sudden, there's a breakdown there. Just do your job, play the man hard and just get back to basics. But I think if you just start skating a little hard, skating a little harder. Remember when Chief took over, how many years ago? It took about a month to get these guys back into skating shape, but then it seemed like the energy and the attitude of the players seemed to have turned around. And it was just like simple fundamentals, just like just move your feet a little more, get on that defenseman a little quicker, make him make a bad play, get a stick on the puck because you're just there instead of being 10 feet out. Little stuff, little things like that. You're playing up against like the best players in the world. Like you got to find ways to just disturb the breakouts and try and create a little bit more turnovers. I think if they do stuff like that. And to me, it's just like their scoring opportunities aren't necessarily very grade A. They get a lot of shots, perimeter shots. Let's go to the greasy areas. Like look at the goals that Tampa scores yesterday. There's a couple of nice goals, but there's some traffic. Big Pat Maroon's in front of the net. He's screening Carter Hart and whatnot, and just get to the net and be hard to play against. I think to me. It's just nuts and bolts type of stuff, and I think Yeo is he's a player's coach. He's from what I understand, I don't know him. I've met him a couple of times, but it sounds like he's a player's coach in the minor leagues. Guys really liked him. Eventually found his way as a head coach in the NHL and stuff like that. But he seems to be able to be a good communicator with players. But he demands hard work, and I think one of his first quotes in one of the things I read was, "Let's get these guys skating and working a little more efficiently." So.
All right. Well, hopefully he's able to do that. Before I let you guys go, one of your most recent episodes of Nasty Knuckles, you talked to one of my favorite human beings ever to walk the face of the earth, Bernie Perrant. If any Flyers fan needs to hear from Bernie Perrant right now, if ever you need to hear from him, right now is the time, obviously.
Yeah, he's awesome. Bernie's awesome. I think he's invited us out on his boat, which I'm not a big boat guy, and he's talking about going 80 miles out. And I'm telling Riles, I don't know, but I'll do it if we have to. But he offers us that. He's like, you're coming. But then he just kept saying, Riley mentioned to him about, do you have anything you want to plug here at the end of the show? Like anything you got going on? He goes, well, I think I need to plug my boat with you two getting on it so it doesn't sink. And I said, well, shit, you're the one that invited us.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, he's a special human. For anybody that hasn't met Bernie, he has a way to make you feel like $1 million. And he just went through back surgery, so he was dealing with some recovery issues right now. But nonetheless, his spirit is light and lifted. So I wish him the best in his recovery. But he's a special human for sure.
He's looking at a guy like Bernie Perrant. He's the guy that he's the relative you can't wait to show up for Thanksgiving. Like, hey, is Uncle Bernie here yet? You know what I mean? Like he's that guy.
100%.
Yeah, exactly.
I absolutely love Bernie. You guys are taping, I believe, the time we air this today, I believe with Joffrey Lupul for your latest episode.
Yes.
Yep. Loops. Yep.
Loops.
Had a chance to play with him a couple weeks ago at the FLYERS alumni games. Nice to see him. He seems to be doing well, but yeah. Loops is a good human too. So looking forward to reconnecting.
Awesome. Look forward to that episode as well. Two quick things for you guys. One, do you guys believe in jinxes?
I do a little bit. Why?
Well, I want to be honest because my audience knows this. You guys might not know this. So I kind of went to the FLYERS game. I believe it was November 18th against the Lightning, and that's the first game they lost of their 8 straight losses. So I believe I jinxed the FLYERS. I might be taking sole responsibility for Alain Vigneault taking his job. That's getting his job back. That's pretty much. I just want to be open with you guys. You know what I'm saying? I might be a mush.
Farzy, I do need to tell you this. I did speak to Yosi today after his press conference, and I let him know about the big-time goals you scored, although it was ball hockey.
Yeah, clutch player.
They're looking for a clutch player, and I let him know you had Nike gloves. He likes the old school stuff, so you might be getting a call here this afternoon.
I'll be ready. As long as I have like 4 to 5 months to get ready and get into game shape, I will be there.
Say to recover.
Yeah, after the tryout, I'll need that much time to recover, and then I could play maybe next year for him. And hopefully that'll be the case. And then last thing, guys, I like to do my research. What can I say? I like to do my research. I was reading this story about Mike Yeo from his days in Minnesota. And it had like the profile pieces, like get to know your coaches and all that stuff. And then one thing he said he watched when he was growing up, his favorite show growing up was Scooby-Doo. So between the two of you, Riley, Nasty, what were your favorite cartoons growing up?
Ooh, mine?
Oh, man.
Probably.
I asked the tough questions.
You do. Yeah, you do. I think going back, my very first favorite were the Super Friends.
Super Friends.
Yeah.
Okay.
It was like, Batman, Superman.
Right.
Wonder Woman.
Yeah.
It's old school. I'm old, though.
You're old.
I'm
old.
old. So that was one of my favorites. I used to like Tom and Jerry, too.
Yeah, Tom and Jerry, yeah.
Classics.
Yeah, he's going to say Scooby-Doo and Shaggy was his favorite.
Well, who doesn't like some Scooby snacks?
Exactly. That's my point.
I was also
you don't say.
Ninja Turtle guy.
Yeah. Oh, were you?
A little bit, yeah. A little Raphael action.
Yeah.
Were you a Raffi guy? See, I was the Michelangelo guy.
You were, right? Yeah. Yeah. I was between Raphael and a Leonardo guy,
you're a leader. You're a leader. What can I say?
Right.
Yeah.
The fellas, the great guys of the Nasty Knuckles podcast and web show. Make sure you guys check them out wherever you get your podcasts as well. Joffrey Lupul is coming out soon. They already got Bernie Perrant right there as well for episode number 51. Episode 52 will be Joffrey Lupul. Riley, Nasty, thank you guys so much for coming on the Farzy Show. Much appreciated. Always great talking pucks with you guys and talking about snapping biscuits.
Snapping a biscuit.
Snapping a biscuits around.
Snapping a biscuit. Next time I'll wear the gloves, I promise.
I love it. Thanks, Farzy, for having us.
All right, brother.
Man. You're the best.
You're the best. Thank you so much. The guys of Nasty Knuckles, ladies and gentlemen, joining us on the Rothman Orthopedics guest line.